The Return to Bloody Nights is a Five Nights at Freddy's fan game set in the elusive Fredbear's family diner, and was released on GameJolt just over a year ago now, and upon seeing the praise it was getting from the community, I just had to check it out myself. Now, the GameJolt page for The Return to Bloody Nights states that this game takes its own twist on the FNAF timeline and all of the crucial events for its story, and the game is said to bring a perfect balance of new and old style FNAF by making a combination of old style atmosphere and gameplay alongside some new mechanics which bring forth the best elements of the newer games in the series. But avert your eyes to the teaser images and screenshots that are displayed on this GameJolt page, and you can determine that this game is going to be one hell of a ride. So without wasting any more time, strap into your seats, grab some popcorn, and let's see if The Return to Bloody Nights really lives up to the hype. When we first load up the game, we are thrust straight into a cutscene which takes place in the eyes of one of the performers, likely someone in the Fredbear suit, as we watch from backstage as Spring Bonnie is performing all by himself. Now, you can look around the room a little bit before the door slams shut and our screens fade to black. And this is only the first of many interactable cutscenes in the game, and honestly they are just a neat addition onto an already pretty good FNAF fan game, and it's those kinds of details that make a game great in my eyes. But alas, we load into the main menu, which is incredibly unique in comparison to most FNAF fan games. And here we can see that our nights are actually the weekdays and can be selected at any point in time. So if you want to play a specific night later on in the game, as long as you've unlocked it, you can play it whenever you would like to. Anyways, without further delay, let's click new game and see what happens. Ah, another cutscene, how splendid. Now this one isn't interactive to the player, but we do get one of these every single night, and these sort of cutscenes serve to drip feed us the lore one drop at a time. But anyways, these cutscenes all involve phone calls between William Afton and Henry Emily. Now here's a rundown of the first night's call. William informed Henry that his animatronics are doing really well and that he's excited to open his very own restaurant. William does admit he's a little jealous and hopes his place does just as well as Freddy's, but Henry then brings up some of his safety concerns, as there have been a few incidents with the characters malfunctioning and harming visitors. And William quickly addresses these concerns by saying he's going to be more careful in future with the production of these animatronics and promises not to rush in making them, and asks for Henry's trust before ending the call on good terms, and our very first night begins. Now just one more thing before we get into night one, we get this loading screen which shows Spring Bonnie lit up, and we'll get this screen every single night just with a new animatronic lit up to show who's becoming active on which night. Now Spring Bonnie himself is pretty simple when it comes to his mechanics, as he just starts at the stage and moves towards the door on the right side of your office. Now on the topic of the office, when loading into the night, we can actually see a lot of cool details spread around the environment, and a lot of these things are actually interactable. For example, these little bobbleheads on the desk here. Another cool detail is something to do with the doors. Now when you close them, you'll notice there are actually paintings of Spring Bonnie and Fredbear on either side. Now these paintings on the doors will correlate to what animatronic is going to attack from what side. For example, all of the Fredbear themed animatronics attack from the left, all of the Spring Bonnie animatronics attack from the right. Also, if you turn around, you'll see this neat little toy box area with lots of references to other games, but this doesn't become important until later on in the game, so we're going to ignore this for now. Now getting into the actual night, we receive a phone call from the Fazbear Entertainment CEO, who just gives us the basic night one talk you have come to expect from the FNAF series and its myriad of fan games by now. And he talks to us about pay, contracts, all that boring grown-up stuff, as well as a basic tutorial on keeping safe from the animatronics. In all regards, night one is incredibly easy and shouldn't pose as a challenge, as during every run I've completed of this game, Spring Bonnie will only really reach your office door once per night, and sometimes doesn't even get to that point. Before we move on to talking about the rest of the nights, I wanted to take a moment to appreciate and talk about all of the little design elements hidden in this game. Things like the photos of William and Henry just being genuine pals, or the Aftons together as a family, really make the office feel more alive and lived in. Then again, if we turn back around for just a moment, we can spot so many different references back here, and I'm just going to run through them all quickly. There's a little Sonic figurine, a Cuphead figure, Spring Bonnie and Fredbear toys and plushies, all just look really cool and make the environment feel more lived in. I'm sure there are definitely more references hidden back here, but I'm not smart enough to recognise them all. So if there are any here that I've missed out, make sure to comment them down below. Now there's one final thing that for me always makes or breaks a FNAF fan game, or even one of the mainline games. I'm looking at you, FNAF 4, and that is the ambience, aka the background noise or music, which this game does astoundingly well, with there also being so many just random little sounds and noises thrown in to throw you off and make you feel like you're in danger at times when you're perfectly safe. But now that I'm done admiring the scenery and smelling the goddamn flowers, we can go back to talking about the gameplay. Oh well fellas, it looks like my little obsession with the scenery of this game has wasted our time. It's 6 AM and our first shift is over, however there's one more thing for us to do tonight. Post 6 AM, we find ourselves in front of Fredbear with a weird device that definitely looks a little like something from Phasmophobia, and definitely detects spookies. And we are able to move our mouse to control where the device is pointing as we scan the animatronic for, well, spookies. And after a few moments of skillful scanning, nothing happens and the segment ends, sending us into a black screen as we move into Night 2. Now, in the Night 2 phone call between Henry and William, Henry is basically questioning Afton for any information on his progress working on the newer animatronic models, with William expressing his confidence in meeting the deadlines for making the animatronics functional, but Henry is still worried about the safety protocols put in place for the customers, with William quickly reassuring him, and then the call ends on good terms. Now moving into Night 2, we see this loading screen yet again, this time with Fredbear highlighted, and he works exactly like Spring Bonnie except he attacks from the left side of the room instead of the right side. The pre-recorded phone call we get from the CEO during this night just basically explains that the suits can be worn as well as being animatronic. This is our first introduction to the concept of Springlock suits, all whilst expressing the danger of Springlock failures and warns us not to wear the suits just in case. Although he doesn't say this blankly and up front, instead talks about a previous incident. Here, take a listen.
These newer models aren't quite perfected yet. They've got a bit of a, well, let's call it a design flaw. You see, if you're not careful, it could crush your chest, and you'll bleed out until the dawn. Trust me, it's not a pretty picture. We had an incident with one of our employees not too long ago. Poor guy ended up in a hospital bed with his legs crushed. It's tragic, but informative.
But he does also tell us about a brand new animatronic made by Henry himself, and instead of telling us how we deal with it, he just says it's in our office. Now, this is the puppet, and although he mentions it during this night, he isn't actually active until Night 3. But because both of the active animatronics work in the exact same way, this night is incredibly boring, especially given the fact that the nights are 8 minutes long. That is like forever for my little monkey brain. So, if you don't mind, we're just going to jump straight up to 6 AM. Yet again, after 6 AM, we find ourselves back on the show stage with our little spooky detection device here. But instead of pointing it at the bear, we are now investigating the bunny, and just like last time, we see nothing here before we fade to black and the night ends. Now we get yet another William and Henry phone call before Night 3 begins, and Henry is telling William about the initial reception of the new animatronic designs, and that most of the employees who have seen them so far find them way too scary for the kids, and too robotic looking. And William responds by telling Henry that they are only works in progress at the moment, and would be more child friendly later on, and that he's been studying child psychology to help him with this endeavour. With Henry accepting this answer and placing his trust in William, and decides to ask about William's recent divorce, who then responds saying times have been difficult, but he's been pouring himself into his work to cope, and the call ends positively with the two friends yet again, and they wish each other the best. Now, the Night 3 loading screen here shows a brand new animatronic. This is Spring Bonnie 2.0, who, just like his original version, will attack from the right side, and it's pretty much the exact same, except it's more aggressive and will get to your office quicker. But anyways, we receive a pre-recorded message from the CEO, who begins ranting about the ball pit being a time machine, which is definitely a reference to the Into the Pit, which is actually getting a game later this year for the 10th anniversary of Five Nights at Freddy's. But he then asks us to be the voice behind the instruction tapes for the Springlot suits, which confirms who we are. We are the phone guy! But he then wishes us good luck and the call ends. Now, I have sung this game's praises so far throughout this video, and it may seem like I'm sucking up to the game's creator, but Night 3 is horrible compared to the others, simply due to the massive difficulty spike and influx of new mechanics. So not only do we have a more aggressive Spring Bonnie variant to watch alongside the other version of Spring Bonnie and Fredbear all at the same time, but the puppet also becomes active on this night around 2 AM. Now this wouldn't be too much of a problem if he wasn't still shaded out on the goddamn loading screen, and the fact that his mechanic is completely unexplained throughout the entire game makes sure that if you get slightly unlucky with your RNG, you are guaranteed to die at least once on Night 3, and you will only know he's there based on a little bell sound, which also is not explained at all throughout the game and just sounds like a part of the ambience. But alongside this problem with the puppet, the AI difficulty has taken a massive jump from Night 1 and 2, and this is one of the only issues for this game, but I guess the puppet's jump scare is kinda cool, as he appears in front of you just kind of laughing at you maniacally. But this this does get annoying incredibly quickly and can definitely ruin your run if you get unlucky with RNG throughout the night. But don't worry chat, it gets worse. Golden Freddy also becomes active on this night and will occasionally appear at the end of the left side hallway and move closer and closer until he's right outside your door, which is when you then have to close it and reset him back to the end of the hallway. Now I don't think I have to explain my reasoning behind thinking having 3 brand new characters with new mechanics appearing on one night, as well as a massive jump in difficulty in all of the other characters, is a terrible idea for progression. Now this is how the gameplay should be at around night 4 or 5, when the player is experienced and knows the mechanics of the different animatronic. And for me, this is where I started to struggle and rack up a few deaths for myself, but I do have to give the creators credit for the jump scares, which are actually really well animated, and the loud screams did catch me off guard a couple of times. But anyways, enough complaining, it's 6 AM and time for us to investigate some more spookies. This time on the Spring Bonnie 2.0 animatronic, and after a good bit of scanning, we surprisingly find absolutely nothing yet again and fake. Now in Night 4's William and Henry phone call, we start off with William telling Henry that they're on track for a successful opening day tomorrow. But Henry is still worried about the safety of the new animatronics, and yet again, William addresses his concerns, telling Henry he made sure to take safety into account. However, we can tell from William's tone that the divorce is starting to affect him, as he now sounds angrier and more bitter. Henry then wishes William the best yet again, and he hopes that he takes a break and feels better soon, with William thanking him for caring before the call ends, kicking off Night 4. This night's pre-recorded message starts off with the CEO talking about his dream, which I think is referencing something from either the FNAF books or the games, before telling us that the new prototypes are now in the building, before being interrupted by another employee, who is likely a receptionist, who informs him that all of the restaurants will be closing down for an investigation after one of the founders had been convicted of a crime. Now we don't learn what the crime is yet, but we can guess what it is based on our prior knowledge of the FNAF lore. But don't worry dear viewers, as we are reassured by the CEO that our work will not be affected. Lucky for us, we get to deal with these robots trying to eat us for a few more nights. Now Night 4 does not introduce any new characters, but is still incredibly chaotic, more so than Night 3, just because of the incredibly large jump in AI difficulty, which just means everybody is now more active and much more aggressive. And I think now's a good time to mention the generator heat, as it's actually a problem during this night due to how much your doors are bombarded by various animatronic. Now this meter fills up when you shut your doors or use the cameras, and will go up faster if you do these mechanics all at once, and if it fills up completely then the power will go out and you die, which forces you to actually pay attention to what you're doing and be more wary of your power usage. Now, after Night 4, we get to take a look at Golden Freddy for any spookies, and surprise surprise, we actually find something this time. Now the machine starts going wild when pointed at Fredbear's head, but our character very quickly turns around to show we're being watched by some other guy outside of the building. Now it's not confirmed who this character is, however I guess it's probably the CEO or Henry or William. After this spooky event, we get to witness the final call between William and Henry, which opens with Henry's condolences and him asking if there's anything he could do, which prompts William to have a massive outburst of anger, where he accuses Henry of not knowing anything about what he's going through or what he's feeling, and that he can't relate to the feeling of losing a child. But moving on to the main Night 5 message from our good pal the CEO, we learn that 5 children have gone missing, which is the reason that the establishment has to be shut down before we are left to survive the 5th and final night of the game. And just like Night 4, we don't have any new threats, instead the animatronics have just been made so much more aggressive than the last night. Now Night 5 took me forever to beat, but after a couple hours of attempts I just barely beat the night, and we received the first of 3 endings for this game.
It has been many years since the incident that changed everything. I have done unforgivable things since then. The missing children, it was all my doing. But do not mistake my confidence for remorse, for I am not sorry. My animatronics were always meant to be more than mere entertainers. They were created to wield fear, to evoke terror, and bring forth the ultimate consequence, death. Oh, Elizabeth, my sweet Elizabeth. She failed to listen to me, and she became the unfortunate victim of a programming error, a mere flaw in my creation. But I could not bear the burden of responsibility, for that would tarnish my flawless image. Instead, I pushed the blame away onto others, for I could not admit fault. And then there was Charlotte, Henry's daughter. I could not bear to see him bask in all his happiness and receive all the credit for our work. My jealousy consumed me, and I had to take matters into my own hands. Do not think for a moment that I fear the consequences of my actions. I am not guilty, not in my mind. I meticulously crafted the evidence to make it appear as though Henry was the one responsible, for I had bigger plans in mind. Plans that require my full attention and dedication. I have built a new place for my new creations, a place that will instill wonder and fear into the heart of all who bear witness. And soon, I will reveal what is coming next.
So yeah, that is the first ending for the Return to Bloody Night, and I personally think it's my favourite, as when I first heard William's speech here, it gave me chills, and I quite enjoyed watching his journey and learning why he did what he did. And the sister location tie-in here fits amazingly with the rest of the story, and we get some very cool end credits. Now, for the other ending of this game, we need to mention Night 6. Now, I couldn't beat this for the life of me, and a lot of people I spoke to said it might as well be complete RNG if you win or not, and not reliant on skill very much at all. But if you do beat it, you are treated to a cutscene of one of the missing children, with text reading, "There was someone that night. I called for help, but no one came for me. Now I feel different. I can't disappear, not now. I found others who are just like me. They need my help. I must guide them. I will give them their happiest day." And this ending, although not giving much extra story stuff, just shows us the rise of the puppet, aka Henry's daughter, who gave the animatronics life in the first place. Now, I mentioned a third ending, and this one is unlocked by beating the max custom night for the game, and I'll play it now.
I found this. I made it. All of this was done in order to find something that even Henry couldn't understand. The last ingredient. Something called the spark of life. The most terrible accidents bear the most beautiful fruits. They serve their lives for a greater purpose. Recreating the accident. That is the duty and honor of science. Reproduce the experiment and get the same results? I gave my whole life to this experiment, piece by piece. The spirit follows the flesh, it would seem, and also the pain. If I wish to become my own immortal creation, my body must lead my spirit to its immortal home. And that time has come. I have finally achieved what I've been waiting for a long time. You thought you would kill me this way and finally be free. By imprisoning me in this body, you only did me a favor. You just gave me a second life that I always wanted to have. I am immortal now, Michael. Running away will get you nowhere now, my son. You may not recognize me at first, but I assure you, it's still me.
Boss, what should I find here? We already grabbed what we could.
There's another room in this building. It could be behind a wall. According to the designer, it has to be on the left, near the emergency exit. Once you find that wall, destroy it. And when you're done, call me again so I can bring the group to help you there.
Okay, boss. I will. Oh, I do not like this place. So, what do we have here? Look at that. Looks like we found a real animatronic there. What happened to the power? I better go check the electrical panel.
Now here we see the Springlock failure scene and the initial finding of Springtrap described in FNAF 3. Now this cutscene is incredibly cool to look at, but doesn't give me half as much of the chills as Afton's speech earlier on. But the confirmation of a return to Bloody Nights 2 set during the time of FNAF 3 gets me incredibly hyped for the future, and overall I think this game is really good in comparison to a majority of FNAF fan games. With my main gripe with this game being the difficulty spikes between nights from night 2 onwards. I believe all of the different animatronics should have been spread out evenly across the nights, and well, had their mechanics explained just a little bit better than they are in the main game. Also, the big goofy arrows at the top and bottom of the screen should have only been there during night 1 as a sort of tutorial type thing. But overall, good game, would recommend you check it out. Now fellas, it's time for my final words before ending off this video. First and foremost, I'd like to ask that if you enjoyed, then make sure to like and subscribe, as I'd greatly appreciate it, but the next fan game I'd like to cover involves a certain cat and will come with a new installment in my Five Nights at Freddy's in Minecraft series. And that video will be just a little bit different than the rest of the series so far, but I can't wait for you to see that video when it's done. The Bendy video should also be coming at some point in the next 2 months. I'm just waiting for my exams to wrap up at the minute before I pull myself into working on that and making it as good as possible. But I do also have a few smaller projects like a video on Poppy's Playtime coming up very soon. So stay tuned, and until next time, have a great rest of your day or night, fellas.